Hello, everyone. It is Shane alongside Frankie. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 13th Man Sports live show. And man, what a week in sports! It's in Canadian sports that just passed.
Yep.
CFL, we got the CEBL Championship. CPL was heading into another weekend of soccer. So it's great to be a Canadian sports fan. Well, we'll start off with the Week 3 CFL news. We were horrible in our pickup.
The pick'ems, like, there's dudes. I think Jamie Nye is like 1 for 9 or something like that right now.
I think so, something like that.
His picks are horrendous. Ours are bad. We're well below 500. Nobody's picking well this year, and I think it's because there's been so many upsets. Like, I'm 5-7, you're 4-8, and just like the teams that lost this week, like the Lions lost to the Elks. I don't think many people saw that coming. Montreal got beat pretty bad, even though the score was relatively close by the Stampeders, who started Jake Meyer, a dude who's never taken a snap in a live professional football game. Winnipeg loses to Toronto and just looked horrible basically the whole game. And then, we both got the Rough Riders over the Red Blacks. I'm just proud that I'm 2-0 in Red Blacks games at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, this week was definitely interesting. BC's offense couldn't get anything going. It's funny because I was watching the game and I tweeted out multiple times like, hey, this is the 2018 Red Blacks versus the 2019 Red Blacks. And it kind of stayed true the entire course of the game where neither team really broke out offensively. They had their flashes. Edmonton was able to capitalize a little bit more than BC, but for a while you just thought it was going to be a kicker matchup, and whichever kicker didn't mess up was who was ever going to win that game.
Yeah, and on that front, like BC's offensive line, they got a couple guys banged up, right? And I think they regressed back to the 2019 form, and you just kind of knew that they weren't going to be able to do anything. And Edmonton, they didn't play that well. Like, their offense didn't inspire much more confidence in them than I've had all season, because other than the one touchdown that they scored, they settled for field goals again and again and again. It's been the same thing, right? The only difference this time is they shut the other team's offense down.
Yeah, and that defensive front, even without Boateng, who was a late scratch for the Elks defense, like outside of Boateng, or without Boateng, they were still able to get pressure. They were still creating havoc for Riley. And this defense, like the Red Blacks, really, if their offense could be subpar or average, they could win games.
Yeah, for sure. There's just something about BC, though. Like, I've had the feeling that they're on the verge of finding something special, right? And I thought they did that in week 2. I thought they played really, really well. In week 1, I thought they were really good once Michael Riley came in and slowed things down for them offensively in the huddle. And then, it all kind of built up to this week where I'm like, they have a chance to really go out there and establish themselves as one of the top teams in the West. And they didn't do it. Now you kind of look at them and you go, are they worse than Edmonton? Might they be worse than Calgary, even with Jake Meyer? Like, I went from looking at BC as one of the top 3 teams in the West to maybe they're now number 5.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting because I really don't see Edmonton making the playoffs. I think they're gonna stay at the bottom, and with Mike, you can't really discount Mike Riley. Like, he's always going to be there. If he's on, he can win you multiple games. But I don't know. I feel like you're looking at top 3 of Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and who else? Like that
Calgary or BC, I think is what it's going to come down to, unless Trevor Harris finds a way to start scoring some touchdowns instead of leaving 3 on the board.
Yeah, like that third spot in the West is up for grabs between Calgary, Edmonton, and BC, and they're all sitting. Teams. Yeah, they're all 1 and 2. So next week's going to be huge. You have BC against Ottawa, Calgary against Winnipeg, and we all know Edmonton isn't playing, which causes even more of a problem.
Which, you're looking at a possibility where if they have to forfeit that game, which my guess is if this game doesn't get played Monday, that's probably the direction this is going to go, just because of the hoops that they'd have to jump through to get both teams in the same building on the same day, because nobody shares bye weeks, right? So you'd have to move some games around. I don't think the CFL really wants to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be played this Monday.
I thought it was this Monday. They were looking at this Monday, this upcoming, the Monday following.
Oh yeah, because both of them play. It gives them a week because they both play on the 6th, right? Because I forgot that of Labor Day. So yeah, I mean, you could if they don't play on Monday, and I mean, that'd be great if they did, but the chances of and here's the thing, Calgary against Winnipeg. I think most people are picking Calgary over Winnipeg over Calgary.
Yeah.
BC versus Ottawa, that's a crapshoot. Like, who knows what you're going to get out of those?
Well, that's the thing. I think if BC's offensive line doesn't get healthy, which I haven't really heard much about what's going on in that situation, but neither of those injuries looked short term, if I'm remembering correctly. But it just goes to show you that you can have the quarterback of your dreams, you can have the best weapons in the league, which we've both said that we think BC's receivers could be up there with the best in the league. If you don't have the offensive line, it doesn't matter. And that's a point that I'm going to make later when we talk about Ottawa.
Yeah, and I think that they lost for what? Figueroa. And didn't they lose Chung as well?
Yes.
So, Neville, who is usually a right guard, gets thrown into the left tackle, or usually a right tackle, gets thrown into the left tackle spot. And that's not an easy position to play in the CFL. And he looks out of it. So, yeah, I mean, BC's question marks on the offensive line, they can be in a heap of trouble soon.
Yeah, and I don't know what they do to fix it, because it's a problem that persisted with them the whole entirety of 2019. It looked like it was getting rectified slowly. And Mike Riley looked awesome. He's looked really, really good in the games where he's had protection. And, I mean, you can only really look at week 2 when his arm looked somewhat normal. Week 1, it was atrocious. we both know he didn't throw a single spiral. So
yeah, and I mean, it sucks, but BC could be looking for another dumpster fire.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing. Is the offensive line is the lifeblood of your football team. If it's not working, you can't do anything. Again, it doesn't matter who's your quarterback. It doesn't matter that you could have a literal all-star team outside of your offensive line. You still probably won't win a lot of football games.
Yes, and we're going to skip the Montreal-Calgary game for a second and focus on the Toronto Winnipeg game, because talking about O-line, I want to highlight the fact that Toronto, this is where I give Dinwiddie credit. You watch Toronto's offense and the way they played in week 3 versus week 2 against Winnipeg. They were moving a lot more. That offensive line, it was more zone running, more play action. They were getting that. They were moving the pocket for Arbuckle. They weren't letting that defensive front with Jeff Coate and Jefferson to gain any pressure.
But when they did, it was big. They ended up with 4 sacks. And I think 2 of them were strip sacks.
I believe so, yeah.
And I noted it when I wrote our 6 takeaways from the Argos versus Bombers game. Arbuckle didn't throw an interception, but he did fumble twice. And I mean, one of them was a hit from behind. Like, you really can't do much about that one. He got his throwing arm got hit.
His tackle just totally forgot about the end. Yeah. He just zoned out.
But the other one, if I remember correctly, was just a rush up the middle, and he just lost the football.
Yeah, I think so.
The Argos recovered that one, thankfully for him. But had they not, we could be looking at a very different result of the football game. So, I don't think Nick Arbuckle was perfect on the day. He made good reads. He made good throws. He made the right throw at the right time. He didn't make a big costly mistake. But at the same time, I didn't have any moments where I was like, holy crap, how did he make that throw? I don't think that they won because of Nick Arbuckle. I think Arbuckle was good enough to get them the win. And I think if he can continue to do that, the Argos will be happy.
Yes. But back to the original point of that offensive line, making it easy for John White and Co.
DJ Foster.
DJ Foster had a hell.
John White didn't do anything. It was DJ Foster's team.
I mean, White did what he had to do, and that was be a catalyst. You watch what he did on the field and how that defense reacted when he was in the backfield. and they were respecting him. I know he didn't put up the yards, but they gave that running game respect. And honestly, that's what you want for a defense. But looking on the flip side, Toronto just continuously sent pressure from the second and third level, confusing Winnipeg's probably the best line in the league. And they were able to get after Caleros and make his afternoon difficult.
And that's what was so confusing for me. You know, the Winnipeg offensive line, both of us have said that we think it's the best offensive line in football. I don't think there's a more cohesive unit in the Canadian Football League. I don't think there's a unit that I'd pick over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers offensive line. And they looked bad. I don't know if it was just the concepts that Toronto was running. I don't know if they tried to mix things up. But even though they only gave up the one sack, you can see there was a lot of throws, especially early in the football game after Zach Collaros got hit and he got pressured a couple times. His eyes started locking on Charleston Hughes. You know, he wasn't making the throws anymore. And I think that's the thing that has made him so successful in Winnipeg is he has all the time in the world to make the throws. He's not afraid of getting hit at this point. And I think that changed a little bit for him last week.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, when you're dealing with a delayed blitz in any kind of fashion or any kind of setting, or even a blitz from the second or third level, it's all about angles.
Yeah.
If you react to it later, if you take the wrong angle as a lineman, especially as a tackle, you're gonna get beat. You're gonna lose your battle every time. So if you're sending pressure from different areas, especially delayed pressure, you are going to cause a living hell for that offense, especially when you stack 5 against the line. Like the amount of times where they stack like 5 to 7 players in the box and then had them either disperse or they had delayed blitzes. I don't care how good of an offensive line you have. I don't care if you have Hall of Famers on that line. They're going to struggle because it's not an easy job to pick up those blitzes on a consistent basis because you really don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that we've discovered the blueprint on how to beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because I don't know if everybody can do what the Argos did. You know what I mean? But the Bombers' run game was non-existent because of all the pressure that was happening.
Yeah, they were clogging up the holes.
Toronto's front seven is amazing, so I don't know if everybody can do that.
No,
but you know, maybe it's different when Andrew Harris gets back. But Brady Oliveira was completely ineffective. They only gave him the ball 7 times for 28 yards. And then as Collaros continues to get pressure, the Argos can just tee off on him because the run game's ineffective. So maybe other teams can learn from what the Argos did. I don't know, again, if other teams have the ability to do that. But I think the blueprint to beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is out there now.
Yeah, and I mean, not everyone has Judge and Muamba and Hughes and Oakman on one side of the field. And to give credit, like the secondary for Toronto is ridiculous with Peters, Richardson, Butler, Richards, and Decoud or Decoud. Decoud or Decoud?
No idea.
And then you add in McCoyle in that linebacking core as well. Toronto is a team that can make an offensive line's life a living nightmare week in and week out because they have the talent. Not every defense can.
Yeah. Final point for me on that game. Can we talk about how great it was to have a game back for a home game for an Eastern team?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say that I'm bored by watching games in Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Calgary at this point, but it's nice to see a home game for an Eastern team and to boot an afternoon game in Toronto, which are always, I mean, people are going to make fun of them because they don't have a ton of people there, but an afternoon game in Toronto was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's nice. Like this week we have Ottawa and Montreal having their home openers. Toronto was supposed to have their second home game in as many weeks, but we all know that's not happening.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Montreal-Calgary game, because we skipped over it, I don't know whether to be impressed by Calgary or disappointed by Montreal.
Here's what I'll start with. I'll just say Jake Meyer's start was horrendous. The fact that he bounced back from it and was as good as he was for the rest of the way, throwing for 300 yards and a touchdown after he threw his first 2 interceptions, he was lights out. I'm very impressed with what I saw from Jake Meyer, and I got a little bit of Dane Evans vibes from him. And kind of thrusted into the starting role in a similar situation in 2019. He seems like a guy to me that if he continues to play like he did after he threw his first 2 interceptions, I think Calgary could have a lot of success with him.
Yeah, I mean, they could have a lot of success with him. I'm just not expecting a Dane Evans-esque, and I think maybe this is where you have the difficulties, right? You've never played against this guy. There's no film. There's no CFL film on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you really don't know what to expect. And I think this is where I don't know whether to be impressed or disappointed. Montreal's offense didn't make Calgary regret those 2 interceptions.
No.
So
they were horrendous.
If you're Meyer, you're looking at, okay, I didn't cost my team points really. I didn't put my team in a hole point wise. So you can go out there and have the confidence. And once you start hitting your stride, your confidence is still there. You're not your confidence wasn't really shattered because those turnovers didn't lead to points. So I don't know whether to be impressed or disappointed with him, impressed with him or disappointed with Montreal, because if Montreal were to capitalize on those 2 turnovers, and let's say they get 14 points off those 2 turnovers, what's he like the rest of the way?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, but it's a lot of what ifs. I think you can only take the game for what actually happened. And what happened was Jake Meyer came out and he outplayed Vernon Adams. That's exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Montreal, I'm incredibly disappointed with what they showed because they looked like potentially the number 1 team in the CFL after week 2.
Yeah.
They came out, they played fun football, the deep ball was working for them, they had explosive runs, their defense was good, and they came out in week 3, and none of that was true.
Yeah, so, and I mean,
I really wonder if they let it get to their head.
Maybe it's just a warning that we shouldn't look at 1 game sample sizes and be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Right?
Well, I think that's obvious as well, but at the same time, that's all we had. And boy, did they ever look good. That was the most complete looking football team that we had seen all season long. And they came out and then I just don't understand what happened, because they looked awful. They Stanback didn't have the same explosive runs. Vernon Adams couldn't make plays. The receivers didn't seem to be able to get open. Their defense after their first 2 interceptions didn't seem to be able to make any plays. I just don't know what happened to them.
It's deflating when you create chances for your offense and your offense can't capitalize and you're right back out on the field.
No, I know, but why can't you capitalize? That's the question, because they should have been able to.
I mean, yeah, they should have been able to, but I mean, hey, we should probably give Calgary's defense credit.
For sure.
Absolutely. They definitely deserve credit for how they handled that week. They made his Adams' life difficult. They're outside of Amos and Leonard, that secondary isn't very well known, but they were able to capitalize. But overall, and again, this is a game where it literally went down to the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
If Montreal scores and ties that game and they end up winning in overtime, it's a completely different story, right? So,
well, they would have won with an extra point.
Oh yeah, they were down 6, not 8.
Yeah.
But if they win that game, it's a completely different story. So I'm not going to overreact to it. Good teams have bad games.
Yes. This was just an exceptionally bad game against a team that they should have beat.
Hey, that's the beauty of the CFL. Any team can win any given week. And I think that's evident in a very short camp, no preseason. Anything can happen week to week.
Yeah. You know what I think actually made one of the biggest differences in this game?
What?
Let's just look at what Mario Alford did. 5 kick returns, 109 yards. That's an average of 21.8 yards per return.
Yeah, that's a pretty good flip.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can find his punt returns. 2 returns, 9 yards. Adarius Pickett, 3 returns, 22 yards. So the longest kick return that the Calgary Stampeders gave up on the night was 11 yards on punts and 32 yards on a kickoff. That's the difference right there. That's good field position. They did a great job at slowing Mario Alford down. Their special teams were fantastic.
Yeah, I mean Yeah, no, that's the problem is that when you look at punt returns between the Darius Pickett and Alfred, you're looking at 31 yards total versus Malik Henry at 52 total yards. Like
That's how
that
you can
10-yard flip is crazy.
You can swing the momentum quickly with the kick return too. Like, look at how the momentum changed in that Montreal game when Mario Alford is returning big kicks in Edmonton, and when he did it in the playoffs in 2019. Like, it makes a difference for your football team.
Yeah,
one way or another, whether it's better field position or flipping the momentum of the game and getting everybody into it, it's important, and the Stampeders did a great job at stopping that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that in the CFL you definitely notice more than the NFL with the kick return yards. But yeah, I mean, Adams had 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
He never looked good to me though in that game.
Yeah, neither did his receivers though.
No, like I mean the throw at the end of the game too. I don't mind that play, but why not have that route run 2 or 3 yards deeper so that way when he does catch the ball, he's in the end zone?
I don't know. He should have thrown it deep. He should have thrown it to his running back who was on it was just a dump off. He had space to run. He had one defender to beat, and he had the angle. It's something you look back on and you're like, okay, I could have done better, but
yeah, I think that's a Reed thing though. This is a play calling thing where I'm just not sure why you wouldn't. And it's the same thing in the Edmonton game.
Because you probably feel like because there was 3 defenders around that receiver.
Right, but if you make that throw outside of the end zone with the kind of throw that it was, that leads him right out of bounds. There's very little chance that he can get himself into the end zone. But it goes back to the question, and I said this about the Edmonton game as well. Why would you, when you need 10 yards, why would you run 8 and hope that the guy gets there instead of running to the sticks and completing the pass where he's already in the spot to get a first down when you desperately need it?
I'm gonna straight up just be honest. American play callers and American coordinators have a tendency to run their plays as if they're still playing American football. I don't understand the constant run on first down, throw on second down. That seems to be an MO for half the league. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But it also, you look at some of these end zone plays, and receivers are cutting. There's no one in the end zone running a play past the 10-yard mark in the end zone.
There's 20 yards there. That's the thing with the Montreal one. It's so confusing.
Unless the play breaks down or you're closer to the end zone, you rarely see receivers deep into the end zone anymore.
Yeah.
Play callers just forget that there's an extra 10 yards of end zone there.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. When you need a touchdown, it's all or nothing. Why would you go to the very beginning of it? You've got all that space back there. If you take a step out of the end zone or the ball takes you out of the end zone with its trajectory, if you run that same play, but I think it was BJ Cunningham who caught the ball, right?
I think so.
If he runs that play and when he catches that ball, if he runs his route and he makes his break 3 yards deeper into the end zone, that's a touchdown. The Owls win the football game. So I'm not saying that it would 100% of the time work, but I would rather throw the ball into the end zone and take that risk than throw it outside of the end zone and pray that my guy can get in, especially in that part of the field where there was no chance he was going to be able to turn himself around and get in.
Yeah. But I mean, again, this is it's a what-if situation. I guarantee that Adams looked at it and it was like, okay, I know what to do different now. But moving on to the last game of the week.
Oh, the most entertaining one of the week, too.
Ottawa versus Saskatchewan. I'm going to be honest. Early in the game and for most of the game, I wasn't impressed with Saskatchewan. They did not look like an actual Grey Cup contender. They kind of looked lazy. They looked sloppy on offense.
I got torn a new one by Rough Riders fans because I suggested that the Red Blacks defense slowed down their offense. And that's the case. They settled for 5 field goals, right?
Yeah, that's slowing down the offense. I don't care what people say.
Brett Lauder kicked 5 field goals. He was 5 for 5. The Red Blacks defense did what they needed to do to win the game. Now, again, back to the BC Lions point. Remember in 2019 when the BC Lions had all these great receivers and they had Mike O'Reilly, you know what I mean? And their offensive line was atrocious.
Sucked.
How many games did they win?
5, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
They were like 5-13 or 4-14.
Yeah, and I think 2 of those wins came against Ottawa. So
I think so.
They were brutal. It didn't matter who their quarterback was, and it didn't matter who the receivers are. So every time I see somebody say that Matt Nichols is the problem and they'd be better with Nick Arbuckle, I laugh because it's not true. There's not a quarterback in the world that could be effective when he gets sacked 11 times in 2 games. It doesn't matter who's back there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like Catalina. I think he has the skill to be an actual quality starting tackle in the league. I like Zot. I think he has the talent to. He can't. Those 2 players can be an effective left side eventually.
Yeah.
I do not understand in what world who thought starting 2 rookie left side players was a smart idea.
I saw you were involved in a conversation about Bob Wiley as well, where they were blaming Bob Wiley for this, and I just don't think that's true either. Because
how can you blame a coach when the problem has been persistent for the last 2 seasons and longer? Like Ottawa in 2018 and 2019 combined, Ottawa gave up on 91 sacks across 2 years, 43 and 48, respectfully. You're going to tell me that as bad as Ottawa was, the 3-15 record, they gave up 5 more sacks in 2019 than they did in 2018. But for some reason, they were a lot worse. So either the offensive line, was left out to dry, the offensive line regressed, or the talent outside of the offensive line wasn't good enough to make up for the inability of the offensive line to hold a block for longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah. I like the 2019 offensive line, I know you said it sucked. I would so much rather have that offensive line back than the one they have right now.
People hated Seguin. People thought he was garbage. The amount of time people hated on, and I think this is the problem that I have. All of 2019, it was always offensive line is garbage, offensive line is garbage, offensive line is garbage. They bring back, or they're expected to bring back 3 of those 5 offensive linemen in Court, McMillan, and Mateus. Mateus retires.
And Fontana was supposed to come back as well.
Yeah, but he didn't start most of 2019.
But he probably would have started this season.
Probably. They probably would have put Fontana at left guard this year to start the year. But the problem persists. Maybe management's the fault here. The coaches have changed, players have changed, results have stayed the same. Yeah. Common denominator, management has stayed the same.
I don't want to pin blame, but I just don't think that I don't want guys to take this the wrong way, because there's a lot of really good guys on that offensive line, but I don't think that group together is good enough. I think that
they're just not experienced.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that they can't be good. I think Natai Rogers can be good. I think Catalina can be good. But the bottom line is right now they aren't playing well.
Rogers is our best lineman. Like, no offense to Court. He is not a center. I do not understand why he is the center.
Well, because they didn't have any other options.
Like, if he's the best of the rest, we have an issue. But Rogers, in my opinion, has been great. He has been solid on that right side.
They missed Nolan McMillan last week too.
How do you pronounce his name?
Bouchel Beatty, I think is how you pronounce it.
He played well. He played decently. For his first CFL game, he played all right.
Yeah.
On that right tackle spot or right guard spot. But when you start an offensive line that 3 of your 5 starters have going into the game have played a combined 2 games.
Well, and when you play 3 Americans too, they got to be way better than that.
Yeah. But that left side needs to be better. Most of the pressure came from the left side.
Yeah. And that's not good because that's the quarterback's blind spot.
Yeah, and people are like, this is what happened. And yeah, Nichols hasn't really stretched the field, and that's a problem in and out of itself.
But
he hasn't been given the chance to do so because
exactly.
he's had 2 seconds to throw. People are like, he hasn't had a chance to go through his progressions. He hasn't had a chance to set his feet properly. He is rushing throws because he doesn't have the time. And Matt Police, for some reason, refuses to move the offensive line anywhere outside of a pocket. They don't move the pocket. They don't create trouble for the defense. The defense can literally just pin its ears back and be like, after Nichols, because Nichols can't run. And it's just frustrating because it's the same thing year after year after year. And nothing has changed for this team.
Yeah. We're going to spend a lot of time on the Red Blacks here too, I think, because it's such an interesting team. Because I think we can all understand that their defense is good enough to win a Grey Cup.
100%.
It might be the best defense in the league. Right? It's up there for sure. For sure, it's up there.
I think Winnipeg and Toronto have the best too.
Yeah, but can Ottawa go toe to toe with those defenses? I think they can for certain. So the offense is the only thing holding this football team back because special teams wise, they've got one of the best kickers in the league and they have potentially the best punter in the league. Their special teams have been really good. They've covered kicks really, really well this season. So you got 2 of your 3 units firing on all cylinders, top 3 units in the league. And then you have your offense, which the only team in the league that has scored less points in this offense is Hamilton.
And they have their own offensive line issues.
Yeah. So to me, it's not Matt Nichols. It's not the receivers. I think they have guys that can make a difference. And we saw people bashing Daniel Peterman, and I think Peterman is good. I think Nate Behar actually looked pretty solid in that game too. Matt Nichols stretched the field a couple times. There's nothing wrong with his shoulder right now. His ball had some zip on it. He looked pretty good to me.
He just can't set his feet. If you actually watch Ottawa and you watch how his throwing, he can't set his feet. And this would be okay if Ottawa was like, okay, we're going to struggle this year. But everyone has made it clear that, this was going to be a competitive team. And that offensive line has let them down again.
I think, too, they played Saskatchewan. Right now is the best football team in the league. Can they fix things coming back to Ottawa? I'm not going to pretend like they're going to be world beaters on offense, but I just don't believe that if that they can't get to at least a level where they're mediocre. You know what I mean? The offensive line, I don't think can be this bad all season.
You would think, but it's not like these players suck. And I think fans have a tendency of they're struggling, they suck.
Yeah.
And it's a skill level.
Yeah, I've also
said it multiple times that they're not good enough right now because they're inexperienced.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people saying to just get rid of the whole offensive line. That's also not realistic because
it's not going to do any good.
Those guys are the starters for a reason. Do you really think that if they bring in the whole second team offensive line unit, they're going to be better?
In my opinion, you have a guy who's sitting at home whose rights are owned by Edmonton.
Yeah.
There are linemen that are sitting at home that played last year that you might be able to convince to come back.
I don't know.
And here's the thing: if I'm OSEG, if I'm Mark Gowdy, I'm looking at this team, and they struggle. Again, next week, the week after. By week 5, they're struggling. And Desjardins hasn't done anything. And the offensive line is still the worst in the league. And they're still leading in sacks. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't see Desjardins being around past week 5 or 6 if the offense is dead last in the league. And they've given up the most sacks. I can't see how you can continue to allow someone who has shown the inability to address their biggest need. Look at all the big names they brought in on defense, and look at the pennies, realistically, the pennies that were spent on that offensive line.
Yeah. And I don't know how you fix it midseason. Other than Derek Dennis, God knows what Edmonton would make you give up to get him at this point. I think they're more interested in not letting him play football this year than moving him for anything, just by the way that it seems from the outside. Like, I just don't know what you do, because I want to say this too. The same people who hated Dominic Davis last season want him in now. What? Like, we just watched the guy. People called him the worst quarterback in franchise history. Which, considering they've had Burris and Harris, is probably true. But did we not just go through 2019 where people wanted his head on a stake? Now you've brought in Matt Nichols. You have a veteran quarterback who has won a lot of games in this league, and you want to get rid of him because he's not being immediately thrown into a successful situation when his offensive line has given up 11 sacks in 2 weeks.
This is what happens when an organization, like when a fan base, accepts mediocrity. The same excuse for Campbell is applicable, and you can apply it to Desjardins. 3 Grey Cup appearances in 5 years. That's all well and dandy, but let's not forget that they are literally a shoelace tackle away. A legitimate shoelace tackle away from being 0-3 in the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
They made the Grey Cup 8-9. They won the East Division at 8-9-1. Literally between 2014 and 2019, there's only 3 teams that have a winning record win the East, and Ottawa was 2 of them. We were second in the East at 8-9-1, back-to-back years, 8-9-1 records. We still hosted a home playoff game.
And you know what's crazy about one of those 8-9-1 records? I was looking back at it the other day. They started that season 1-7-1.
Yeah.
They were horrendous.
But everyone else was also garbage. So, like,
including Hamilton, who was like 0-7 at one point.
Yeah, it's just Ottawa fans, and I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but Ottawa fans accepted mediocrity because they had playoff success. They went to a Grey Cup. But unfortunately, the 2 times they hosted an East semifinals, or they had to play in an East semifinals in 2017?
It was 2016 and 2018 that they hosted the East semi.
No, those were the years they hosted the East final.
Or sorry, yes, they hosted the East final in
so
15,
they've
16,
held it once.
15, 16, and 18.
And they've won all 3.
Yes.
It's great that you get to the Grey Cup when you have to win 1 game. They're coming off a bye week. The 1 game that they hosted in 2017, they got their ass handed to.
They got killed.
Their offense was garbage that entire game, and their defense wasn't much better.
Yeah.
So you're like, and I think this is what I got a lot of hate for it when I said it back then, and I'll probably get a lot of hate for it now. But when you accept mediocrity because of playoff success, you don't give the organization any reason to actually improve. Because as long as you make the playoffs, you're fine. That's all. It seems like all you care about. Let's just make the playoffs.
Those teams, though, I'm not going to say they were amazing football teams.
They weren't.
The 2015 team was really good.
Yes.
The 2016 team, although they didn't play great in the regular season, they went 8-9-1. I think a lot of that was because they were missing Henry Burris for the amount of time that they were. I think that football team, if they went up head-to-head against the 2015 team, might win. And I think they showed that when they beat a really good Stampeders team. And they beat a really good Tiger Cats team, or Edmonton team in the East Final. I think that team, to me, is the team that I hold up on the pedestal and say that's the best team in franchise history. The 2018 team that went to the Grey Cup, I don't think that was a very good football team.
No, they were hot garbage.
And
yeah, they
won a lot of games.
7.
Yeah.
But can we also talk about
11 and 7.
They were 11-7, and I'm pretty sure they won like 4 games by under 6 points or something. Like, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull up the 2018 Red Blacks schedule.
Yeah, but I mean, all in all, like, if they had the offensive line from that 2016 team, let's say, do you not think this is a much better football team?
Oh, 100%.
Like, I think, to me, everything else that they have around it, sure, the receivers aren't top flight. There are guys available that they can bring in. Duke Williams was released today. He's been kicking around in the Bills practice squad. Nobody's claimed him and brought him up to their active. He might end up coming back to the CFL. There's him. There's Naaman Roosevelt. There's Manny Arsenault, who we talked to the other day. There's dudes everywhere that they can bring in to fix the receiving core, but it won't matter until the offensive line is fixed.
Yes, agreed. But yeah, like looking at them, like they had decent record, like a good amount of wins because their defense was solid.
Yeah.
But and I've said this, and I'm pretty sure 2018 they went into the final, and here's the thing: they went into the final 3 weeks at 8-7. They played Hamilton, and Toronto that year to end the season. They were getting their ass handed to them against the Tiger Cats in week 16, and then Mazzoli got hurt. Or no, Brandon Banks got hurt. And after that entire game got like flipped because they were up, I think, they were up quite a bit heading into half, were they not?
I don't remember this game very well offhand.
Let me see. Yeah, they scored 3 short yards. They were down by 16 at one point. Dominic Davis scored 3 short yardage touchdowns. And it gave them in 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
Jeremiah Mazzoli threw 3 first half touchdowns, and he finished with 309 yards, but was stymied in the second half. So yeah, they lost Brandon Banks and Delvin Breaux in that game.
Yeah.
And I've said it multiple times. In my opinion, if Delvin Breaux and Brandon Banks don't get hurt in that game, it's a completely different ball game.
Oh, that was the season when, that was a home game, right? And Banks got hit on the sidelines, and they had to put like a steel plate in his shoulder. I remember that now.
Yeah, and they were dominating Ottawa, and it looked like they were going to get steamrolled.
Mm-hmm.
And then Breaux and Banks got hurt, and then Ottawa was able to take advantage of it because they were down their 2 best players on each side. And then they went into the following week without those 2 players, and Ottawa was able to steamroll them because
that was the game where Lewis Ward kicked like 7 field goals, was it not? In a crappy weather game.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
They may have played Hamilton 3 times that season.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, it may have been.
Let me see. So in that game, he had two field goals. But yeah, they beat him 30-13 the second week and basically locked up first in the East. But it's not like they were guaranteed first in the East up until that point.
Yeah.
Oh no, he only had 1 field goal in the following week. And then Harris had 3 touchdowns, and Mazzoli was 0-2 because they didn't have their bet, like, because they were also down like other receivers at the time.
Back to this season. I just get really concerned. The more and more that they go without the ability to put up, 2-3 touchdowns a night, I get concerned that this is going to become a habit, and this is just going to become the way it stays forever. And I know that's probably not realistic, that it'll just never get better, but
it's never going to get better under Desjardins. I don't see how he's brought back. And he may be a great guy for some and horrible for others. I just don't see how he's brought back.
Yeah, I'm going to leave those comments to you because I don't want to get kicked out of any Red Black stuff. But
I'm not going to sugarcoat something. I'm not.
No.
Like it's just, unfortunately, you look at the common denominator that has been the last 3 seasons, and he's the only one that has stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's what you look at in sports. What is the common denominator? We've changed the coach. We've changed the players.
And the GM's always the last one to go.
And GM's always the last one to go because they always think it's the coach or the player's fault.
Yeah. Well, usually starts with the players, then it's the coach,
and then it's the GM.
They tried the players for 19. That was terrible.
Didn't work.
Tried the coach this year.
It doesn't look like it's working
yet. I mean
I
offensively, by the way, Mike Benavides was a great hire.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
And I think LaPolice has done well with what he's been given, but you look at who provides the players, who brings in the players.
And that's where you have to look next.
the next player is the GM. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, we just had it for about 15 minutes.
Moving on, we have about 15 to 30 minutes left in the show. We'll quickly talk about the postponement. We talked about it earlier in the show. We'll talk about the postponement. Elks, Toronto, it's not happening on Thursday. It's expected on Monday from what Frankie was saying.
Not expected, but that's a potential day they're looking at.
Yeah, potential day is on Monday because they don't play again until neither team play until the following Monday on the 6th because of Labor Day. So it would still give them a good amount of time to recover. I believe there's 9 total players that are on the COVID list. And according to Edmonton Elks CEO and president, Pearson, they're in the bottom 3 in COVID vaccination percentage among the team.
Yep.
And if that's and apparently the 9 players mix vaccinated and unvaccinated. I think we know 2 of them, Armando Sewell, or not Armando Sewell, Boateng and Sir Vincent Rogers are both 2 of the players, I believe, that are within the 9. But if you're Edmonton and if you're a vaccinated player and you don't know if you're going to play.
Well, I mean, if I'm a vaccinated player right now, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because
I'm hella pissed.
The CFL has said that if you're at the 85% threshold, you will get your game check, right? Yeah. They're definitely not there if they're the 3rd lowest vaccinated team in the CFL. I'm not sure anybody's at 85% yet.
Hamilton
I don't know.
Is.
Are they?
Yeah, I think earlier today they announced that Hamilton hit 85%.
Apparently, when I was doing our power rankings and a bunch of other stuff this morning, I missed a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, if they're there, that's fantastic. But the Elks are definitely not there. Dave Naylor did report that Chris Presson, the Elks president, said that it's a possibility that the game gets rescheduled. Farhan Lalji says that the game might be rescheduled in Edmonton, which I think would be a joke.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but if that's the only time you can get it done, that's the only time you can get it done.
To me, too bad, so sad. You know, you shouldn't take away an Argos home game from them unless you plan on giving them all the concessions, and they have to fly to Edmonton.
I would. I mean, if I'm heading to if they put it in Edmonton, I would hope that all ticket sales, all concessions, and Edmonton pays for Toronto's flight and hotel while they're in Edmonton. And they treat it like a home game for Toronto, and they get all the money for it.
Yeah. I think something similar to this happened with the Argos already, right? With when they had to come to Ottawa to play a home game because the Blue Jays had Rogers Center.
Yeah,
I don't know
that
if
like a preseason game though. I didn't realize that.
No, that was a regular season game. That's when Chad Owens made that catch in the end zone. That was a regular season game. But that was different circumstances. That wasn't the Red Blacks' fault. This is the Elks' fault. Don't make any mistakes about this. This is their fault.
Yeah, and if I'm a vaccinated player, I'm pissed because if let's say you're a vaccinated player, right? And
I want my game check.
Yeah, you want your game check. Why should we be punished because my teammates are idiots?
Or don't want to get vaccinated. Like if I'm a vaccinated player, I'm upset that my teammates aren't vaccinated. I'm not going to get paid because of it.
Yeah, like I would be livid. You know, they went and got double vaccinated to make sure they could play football.
Mm-hmm.
And then to lose a game check because of it, I would be pissed as a vaccinated player.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? Like, it's your right not to get vaccinated. But if I was a player that was double vaccinated, I'm going to lose my game check because we have a COVID outbreak, and I find out that we're one of the least vaccinated teams in the league, I'd be upset. But you know what, Shane? This is going to become an even bigger problem when, I don't know, this happened after our show last week, but they're talking about everybody getting on airplanes has to be vaccinated, double vaxxed.
Yep.
So they don't know if it'll apply to charter flights yet, which it very well might. You know,
it could, yeah.
Not a lot of restrictions have made complete and total unilateral sense so far, you know. Like, there's been things happening that you're like, well, why can this happen while this can't? Why can, I go to a movie theater, but I can't go to watch a sports game? Like, things like that have been happening this whole time. So who's to say that this won't happen for charter flights as well? When you can go into a locker room with a guy who's unvaccinated, but I can't get on an airplane with that same guy. So very soon, the league might have to say, look, if you want to play, you get double vaccinated because you can't play away games. Or we're going to have to stick you on a bus and drive you across the country.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure even buses are all federal trains, buses, everything. Anything that's federal transportation.
It'd be a logistics nightmare to get guys from, Montreal to BC if they made the vaccinated requirement for chartered flights.
Yeah,
it'd be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, and I mean, it sucks being forced to be vaccinated if you don't want to be vaccinated, but at the same time,
the league has to do what it has to do to play games.
Yeah, and I mean, you're seeing it within the fans. It's double vaccinated or proof of a negative test.
And you know what? We haven't. The numbers, I believe, in Manitoba, we haven't seen a spike because everybody going to the Bombers games is vaccinated. Yeah, and I believe we're seeing a spike in Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, Delta variant.
Yeah, and there's already been cases linked to the Rough Riders games.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's now all of the Eastern teams have mandates that you have to be vaccinated to go or have a negative test.
But they're starting, in like Red Blacks are starting September 22nd.
After their second home game, which I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but I've heard that it's because they have no way to actually check.
Yeah, it's basically a logistical nightmare.
Yeah,
doesn't
surprise me.
Like Tim Baines, I think, released an article. I think it was Tim Baines, with Mark Gowdy explaining why, and it was getting it ready for this Friday. It would have, or this Saturday, just a logistical nightmare. There would have been delays. It would have just this way. It gives the province to come out with a system, and it gives them a chance to actually have a solid, smooth plan. Because here's the thing: do we know how you would prove double vaccination? Like,
I don't know. There's supposed to be some app that they're developing that's like a QR code that would be scanned, and I don't know.
Because I don't remember hearing about how to prove that we've been double vaccinated. So I'm gonna be very interested, in how that works.
Yeah, check your emails. The Red Blacks will send it to you.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, I think out west too, Winnipeg's doing it. Calgary's
Winnipeg's been doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the province did it.
I think there's only 2 teams that aren't doing it, right? And it's Edmonton and Saskatchewan.
I think so. Saskatchewan's at least. I know Saskatchewan's one of them. I'm not sure.
They're talking about it. They're talking about it right now, apparently, from what I saw. But I wouldn't be surprised because that's the direction we're going. If you want to go somewhere, you're gonna have to be double vaccinated until COVID's not an issue for us anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
But moving on from the CFL talk that we got distracted and added an extra 20 minutes because Red Blacks are frustrating for everyone to talk about.
No, it was a good chat though.
CBL just had their championship. They had their championship weekend in Edmonton. Saw Fraser Valley lose to Niagara, and they saw Ottawa lose a close one to Edmonton on Friday night in the semifinals. And then Edmonton wins back-to-back championships.
They put a beat down on
Niagara. They beat by 50. They almost doubled.
It wasn't even close.
It was I think it was 70 to 56.
Yeah.
In the third quarter. At the end of the third quarter, and they won by 101 to 60 something, I think.
I would love to know what it is about the Blackjacks that just gives Edmonton such a difficult time, though. Because Ottawa was the only team to beat them this year, and they came pretty close to doing it again.
Yeah, I think they're 34-4 over the 3 years. Small in Edmonton. Yeah. It's 34-4 over the last 3 years, over the first 3 years.
Xavier Moon is still the only MVP in league history.
Yeah, he's won 3 straight. I think he's won back-to-back finals MVPs.
Yep.
Dude's a monster. Hey, congrats to the Stingers on winning the 2021 CBL Championship again.
On home court
last year on home court. Hey, man. And I think they haven't even unveiled their 2020 banner yet. I
They
don't,
may
think
have. I'm not sure.
I don't remember seeing it. They might have. But hey, imagine the first home game in 2022. You get to raise the 2020 and the 20. Maybe that's what they're like, man, we didn't get to win this in front of fans. We're going to win it this year. Like,
On the Xavier Moon front, do you think he's back next season?
probably.
You think he is?
Unless he's on an NBA deal. I don't see why not.
I think he's going to G League. I think the Raptors will sign him.
I mean, he can go to G League. That's fine. But if he doesn't have an invitation to Summer League, or if he's not on a contract for the G League next year, or the fall, like for the 22-23 season, I don't see why he's not back.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him back because he's fun to watch. He's quite clearly the best player in the league. He's literally Canada's LeBron James right now.
Yeah.
He's so fun to watch. Like, if you haven't had a chance to watch a CEBL game yet, definitely do that next season because it's fun basketball. Like,
it is.
The
It really
Elam ending
is.
is fantastic. I like the way that the games end, although sometimes it is a little anticlimactic when it's like a free throw or something.
Yeah.
But you know what's more anticlimactic? Watching somebody run a clock down from 5 minutes and
yeah,
fouls.
and I mean, like, think about it. Like, imagine how boring the ending of the Edmonton Niagara championship game would have been if it was a standard time.
There was a game a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Guelph and Hamilton, where each team was within one possession of winning a game, and Guelph was 3 off the target score, and Hamilton was 2. And every possession at that point matters so much. And then eventually, you start to think, oh, well, Hamilton just needs 2, so they're definitely going to win this, right? And then Guelph comes down the floor and hits a big 3, and you're just like, it feels like an upset or like somebody wanted the buzzer,
Yeah.
And it's just exciting. Like it's a great alternative to the NBA, especially for us people in Canada who only have one option with the Raptors, and it's in the offseason too for the most part. So if you have a team local to you, Scarborough's getting one, and Montreal's getting one as well now. So if you're local to those areas,
sounds like Calgary is getting one too.
Yeah.
So
wouldn't be surprised if Brampton got one eventually. I think London will probably get one.
You'll probably see some in Halifax and the out east soon.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's a great basketball league. Like, there's a lot of talented players there. There's Lloyd Pandy was fantastic, and I'm
excited to watch him in Carleton.
Yeah,
this year.
But opportunities like this might give him a chance to open some NBA eyes. With how well he's played in college and now professionally against some pretty good players that he's younger than. Like, who knows what kind of opportunities it could open for him and guys like him in the future.
And it's going to be huge for Team Canada as well.
Yes.
But yeah, if you had it, I'm pretty sure the games are also available on CBL Plus. So if you missed any, you can head on over there and watch them. But man, I'm excited to go to a couple of games last year. I wasn't able to get to any this year. But that game, like, they're so much fun to watch. I love watching them.
Yeah, I think the production quality on TV could be a little bit better, but I was
CBC Sports, right? You're getting it for free.
Yeah. Well, Ottawa's never had a really stable basketball team. I think we had the
Skyhawks.
The Skyhawks, who played out of Canadian Tire Center and then played out of a high school gym. So I think the stability with that team speaks for itself when you mention that. But it's, for me, as such a hockey and football guy, basketball is just such a different environment. You got the music going the whole game. You've got just action at all times. Like, it's a fun sport. And I went to a soccer game the other night, Shane, and I'm like, God, this is boring compared to basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge. Like, I'm probably gonna get 2022 season tickets for the Blackjacks because they're not overly expensive.
No, I think they're like $200 for 20 or for 10 games.
Yeah,
it's about $20 a night, which is fair price.
So $500 for 2 tickets. Not bad.
400.
I was thinking taxes.
Don't include taxes. That's who taxes suck. Don't include them.
I include taxes because that's how much you have to pay.
It sounds better when you do before tax.
Yeah.
So when I go, I only got to pay $400, and it ends up being $495. In my brain, I only spent $400.
But you didn't. You spent $495.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it matters what's in my brain.
Yeah, in my brain, it's a lot easier to spend $495 because I know it's $495.
Nah.
But yeah, I'm probably going to do 2022 season tickets for the Blackjacks.
I think I am too.
But honestly, it's a good league. With that being said, it's the off season. Most of these players are going to go play overseas. Some of them are heading back to Carleton or to U Sports.
A lot of them are going back to Carleton, actually.
I think there's like 6 or 7 of Carleton's players.
Yeah.
That are in the CEBL that they're going to be heading back. So there is quite a bit. I think a couple of the Dalhousie kids. There's a couple of Dalhousie starters that are heading back, and it's going to be a very exciting year for U Sports basketball, which I'm also pretty sure is being streamed on CBC Sports. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll have to get to a couple Carleton games, Shane. We can.
Oh yeah, Carleton and Ottawa U.
Yeah. Well, who wants to watch Ottawa U when Carleton's around?
I mean, hey, they're both pretty good programs. So
one of them is the best college sports program in North America.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would love to see, I would have loved to see like a 2018 Duke versus Carleton matchup.
Hey man, once COVID is done, who knows what can happen? But I mean,
Duke.
Have you ever actually
Duke's,
completely off topic? But have you ever seen the documentary on YouTube that goes into detail about why Carleton is the best basketball program in college sports? Period.
I've seen parts of it. I've watched it a while ago when it first came out, which was I think like 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah, I don't know when exactly came out. I'll have to look it up here because
I feel like it was been out for a while. Like I feel like it came out.
Oh, it's been out for a long time. But it's just so funny to think that we have this like amazing program in our backyard.
We do, but because I feel like if you put Carleton in, especially when the Scrub Brothers were there, when the Scrub Brothers were leading them, if you put them in the March Madness, there's a good chance that they make a solid run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're just such a great program. They're coached really well, and they got a lot of players who buy into the system. And I mean, you're kind of unstoppable when you do all those things and you recruit well. So
I mean, hey, you can bring in the good players when you're winning constantly, right?
Exactly. I mean, I don't know exactly how many they've won, but they won a lot in the last 25 years.
I think 14. I think they won 13 in a row.
It's a lot, whatever it is.
Oh, apparently Trevor Harris. Breaking news from Justin Dunk. Trevor Harris has tested positive for COVID.
Oh. So if they play this game, there's no way they play this game Monday. There's no way. But if that were to happen, if somehow they were to play this game on Monday, the starting quarterback is Taylor Cornelius.
I forgot how big he was.
Who, Cornelius?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, their backup quarterback is Dakota Prukop. Between the two of them, I think they have 30 passes in the CFL. I think those 30 passes, Prukop started a game for the Argos against the Red Blacks, I think it was. And he wasn't great. So.
But they've won 15 championships since 2000. So basically 15 out of the 20 championships were won by Carleton, and they won, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They won 7 in a row from 2011 to 2017, lost in 2018, and then won literally back-to-back.
Yeah.
And they won from 03 to 07. Lost in So 8s aren't good. They lost in 2008 and 2018. So 8s aren't good for this team.
Okay, so what you're telling me is 2028 they should be worried.
Yeah. Okay. They lost in 2010 as well, but they won in 09. So
I just want to point out too, Shane, that I'm actually not wearing a BC Lions jersey. It's a Red Blacks jersey. It's the red one. It just looks orange. Just because you brought it up before we started recording.
Yeah.
And I figured I should mention it before we dip out of here.
But man, I'm excited for U Sports. I'm hoping that they play. CBC has U Sports football and basketball on CBC Sports.
If not, I mean, I think I'll probably have to catch a couple of U Sports games.
I usually work Saturdays, so I don't know how many I'll be able to catch unless I can switch my shifts around.
Who knows? We'll be there when we can, for sure.
Oh, 100%. It's going to be a lot of good football, a lot of good basketball for youth sports.
Yeah.
Um,
Just quickly back onto that Trevor Harris front, though. This is bad. This is very bad right now. I don't know what to say other than that. Like, we kind of felt like this was bound to happen at some point, and now it's happening. How the league deals with this from here is going to be very telling. I'm worried about what the governments do from here, though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, putting with Trevor Harris on the COVID list. It's interesting that he was the one revealed.
My main man Stevie over here is calling me out. So context, Shane. Okay. In the 2019 or 2018-19 OHL season, we went to Oshawa on a bus trip. We were period late because of a massive pile-up collision on the highway. But I bought an Oshawa Generals jersey while I was there, and I was wearing my 67s jersey while I bought it. So when they played the Generals in the playoffs that season, Stevie kept telling me that I should just wear the Generals jersey because I'm clearly a big fan of them, and he's never let it go since. So, I mean I'll just wear my Antoine Pruneau jersey in peace over here. And
you put Tavares on the Oshawa Generals.
I did put Tavares on it.
Fucking trash.
Oh, come on now. He was like he's one of the OHL's legends, dude.
Trash.
No.
To be fair, again, I don't know who else you would put on Oshawa.
Completely off topic again, by the way. Have you seen Antoine Pruneau's mustache?
Yeah, it's legendary.
He's curled it up. And
he looks like a Can someone give him a
French Mafia is back, by the way. The French Mafia is all the way back.
And a fucking beret, and he can walk around in like a striped shirt and like really skinny pants. Please?
No, he's gonna keep wearing the Ramon shirt, man. He's not gonna wear anything else.
Can he dress up as a stereotypical Frenchman for Halloween? Would be the best thing.
I don't think he's going to.
That's unfortunate. Wasted opportunity. Could go for the stare. You're gonna beat someone with the big. Make sure it's stale and just beat someone with it.
The French Mafia is back, though. I'll say that.
Okay, before we head out though, CPL. We had the Canadian Championship as well.
Yes.
On Saturday with Hamilton. Winnipeg beating Ottawa.
Yep.
Atletico 3-2.
Yeah.
So they're off to the second round or third round.
I don't know what it is. I think Hamilton beat that Honduras team, didn't they?
I think so. I think they beat Aggregate.
I think it's obviously separate from the Canadian Championship, but
because that's CONCACAF, isn't it?
Okay. More breaking news on the Trevor Harris front. Dave Campbell reporting that the news of Trevor Harris having COVID is false, according to the Edmonton Elks.
What? Ooh, damn.
So things are clearly moving very quickly. But yes, Dave Campbell is saying that the news of Trevor Harris having COVID-19 is false.
Damn, Campbell.
So, I don't know what the hell was happening, right? Who wrote that original story? It was Justin Dunk. So I don't know. Usually, Dunk is reliable. Like normally I have never had a problem with what Justin Dunk writes.
Hey, maybe he just got bad news.
Maybe. I don't know. This is interesting. And, of course, it has to happen when we say that it happens, and then it comes up and apparently it's wrong. So I'm glad we spent 4 minutes talking about fake news.
Hey, when you're a reputable source like Justin Dunk, if you say something, people are gonna.
When things like that happen, though, I just have to wonder, what actually happened.
Well, even in the article, he doesn't say that someone told him or anything he says per sources. So maybe someone told him, and maybe he got confirmation from a second source.
Yeah, knowing 3 Down Nation else will probably come down pretty quick because they don't. I've gone through their unpublication policy or whatever it's called, and they usually will pull stuff down. But they did say that he tested positive on the weekend following the Edmonton's first win of the season. But I guess that has been said to be false.
Yeah, guess we'll find out more later.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if this came back the other way and it turned out that Dave Campbell was actually wrong and it is a positive test. You know, I think that there's something going on there. Maybe I really don't know what could be happening, but for Justin Dunk to say that he's had a positive test and for Dave Campbell to come back and say that it's not true at all, something feels up there.
Well, he's saying that it's coming from the Elks. So
yeah.
Someone's sources is wrong. It's either Campbell's or Harris or Dunk's.
Mm-hmm.
But he's saying straight from the Elks that this information is false. So
we'll just have to wait and see with this one because, I mean, this story is definitely developing as we go here.
Yeah, basically. So we have some soccer. You know, we have the Canada Championships going on. I think the Canada or the CONCACAF going on. So soccer's been interesting. I mean, you've been to a couple of the Atletico games. What do you think it's like? What can you tell the listeners that what CPL soccer feels like?
Look, I think it's worth going for sure. I'm not the biggest soccer guy. I don't necessarily love soccer as I do other sports. You know, I decided to go the other night when York United was in. I went to the game, by the way, and I thought they were still called York 9. And I told Eddie Benhin that. I said, weren't these guys called York 9? What happened? He's like, yeah, don't worry. We have a chant for that. So they started singing about how York United is still York 9, and they know who they are, which I thought was funny. But at the end of the day, by the way, soccer is literally nothing without the supporters group. Eddie does a great job with those guys, even for, you know, I think it was a Wednesday night game that we went to. Like, the place was still pretty full, and the supporters group was having a good time, and obviously everyone around us was having a pretty good time as well. So I definitely recommend it, especially if you're a soccer fan. And if you're not, go anyway. You might enjoy it. You might decide to keep going again. And if you don't, you know, at least you can say that you gave it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, my one Fury game that I went to that I remember, the supporter section was over in the corner on the south side, like the very
they're still in W.
Corner, and they were the most obnoxious people that I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. Because nothing they did make sense. Like, they never really cheered when they were supposed to. Like, I never felt like they cheered when they were supposed to.
They cheered the entire game.
But it never felt right because there were times where they were quiet.
That happens though because the supporters group is small with the Fury. It was really small.
Everything seemed, and they kind of just seemed obnoxious. Like, maybe it was the fact that there were so many people on one side of the arena, and then they were all the way at the other. So they kind of just like, you felt like you kind of felt distance from them, and I don't know. It wasn't. They did not make the experience better, in my opinion.
Well, for me, I think like it's literally the only thing that keeps soccer alive, especially in like the European countries where the supporters groups are massive. I don't think soccer would be a thing without those people. You know,
probably not,
because soccer in itself is boring. Like, I don't know anybody that doesn't admit that. Even me as a baseball fan, when people say baseball is boring, I'm like, yes, it is, but I like it. You know, because there's a lot of things that go on, but if you don't understand them, it's boring. I get that. It's the same with soccer. Fair warning, though, to anybody going to these games with kids, do not click on the supporter section, see the really cheap tickets, buy them, and then get upset when you go to the game and the supporter section is cheering and swearing, because that's the supporter section.
Yeah,
that's what happens. And I think teams need to do a better job at marking that is not a family-friendly area of the stadium to sit. And it's never going to be, and it's never going to change. Like, I saw a family leave the game or go to a different section because they were swearing. They were really upset with the supporters group. I'm like, well, the tickets are cheaper for a reason, and it's the supporters group. Like, that's just soccer culture. That's never going to change.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like a lot of them, like, and maybe it's the fact that like it is such a small community. But I don't know. When that one experience with the Fury kind of was like, damn. And I mean, I didn't go to many games because they were at the weird times and weird days. Like it just never made sense for me. But yeah, I was like, man, these guys are obnoxious. Like they make noise at the randomest times.
It's to each their own. Like I would rather sit next to it just because it's something happening. I find them rather entertaining, and they give life to the game.
Hey,
When it gets silent and
yeah,
they stop cheering, it's like, oh, just
maybe
start singing again.
Maybe with Atletico it's better. But yeah, the supporter section with the Fury were not good.
Like I said, though, Eddie's doing a good job running that. They're in good hands with him, and 613 Sports is definitely, getting their soccer fix in. So, you and I both were there at one point, so I'd be remiss not to shout them out. So, if you're an Atletico Ottawa fan and CPL fan in general, head over to 613 Sports on Twitter, and they have their website linked in their bio. Get all your soccer fix there, because we definitely cannot provide the soccer fix like they can.
No, neither of us are soccer guys.
No.
But with that being said, guys, thank you all for tuning into our show. It's a pleasure as always. There's links in the bio for Bodog, our link tree, customized sports. Use promo code 13th man, get 13% off your order. Go to Bodog, sign up, make some money or lose some money depending on how lucky you feel. I think both of us would have lost money. I know Frankie would have lost some money if his bank account allowed it.
Yes, I would have, most certainly.
But head on over to Bodog and check them out. It's a lot of fun. We have NFL around the corner. You have NBA, NHL. They're all starting soon, so you do get a little bit more mix in there with those sports starting up.
How about them Bills absolutely laying a beatdown on the Bears with Mitch Trubisky?
Trubisky's a good quarterback.
I know he is.
He just shouldn't have started.
Oh, he looks really
like he's
good
not a
Buffalo.
Quarterback. Like he should have sat for like 2 years.
He just should have like it already though looks like Buffalo is the spot for him. Where if Josh Allen were to get hurt, God forbid, this season, I am confident in Mitch Trubisky right now.
Yeah, I never thought Chicago was a proper fit for him.
Nope. Well, they're also quarterback death zone.
Yeah, that's
go there
true.
if you don't want to have a career. Sorry, Justin Fields.
Yeah, you're going to be there like 3 years and then you're gone.
Yeah.
I'm also excited to see Darnold in Carolina.
Zach Wilson too. I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I took a risk. I drafted 3 quarterbacks in my fantasy draft last night because I picked Prescott, but I know his health is a little bit questionable, and I feel like Darnold.
Is he coming back at all? That's a big storyline.
Prescott, he's expected back he's expected to start week 1.
Because I've heard reports that he might miss the whole season.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I picked him. But I was like, okay, I'm going to take him, and if he doesn't play, okay, I'll drop him, and I have my backup quarterback with Darnold. Yeah. Because I feel like Darnold is I have a feeling I'm going to start Darnold week 1 against the Jets. Because
here's what we're going to do next week. Okay, we're going to do our CFL chat as normal. Then we're going to pick the playoff teams in the NFL. Because that's right before week 1, right? So we can have a good time with that.
Yeah, and we're also hopefully doing our league or Madden League.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for that. We'll have some more information this week about that. But yeah, no, I picked Darnold because I also took Robbie. I kept Robbie Anderson. I feel like with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, I also have Hubbard because if McCaffrey goes down, Hubbard should see an increase in snaps, and I feel like that could be a late value pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I have faith in Carolina doing some damage in that division. Don't really know what to expect with the Saints without Breeze. So
Winston, I think he had a really nice touchdown pass actually that I saw when we were talking there. But I mean, he did throw in a double coverage, so I don't know if that's something he's going to get away with in the regular season. But I think that's his job. Taysom Hill is not a starting quarterback.
No. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. Maybe we'll do a fantasy draft. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
But thank you guys again for tuning in. Follow myself, Shane_RY13 on Twitter. Frankie _Benvo on Twitter. 13th Man Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. We're all there. We're all on social medias. We're on Reddit. We don't post very often on Reddit because it's Reddit.
We probably should.
Probably should. But yeah, check us out. Share the video. If you're catching us on YouTube or on Twitch, give us a follow. Would be great appreciated. But anyways, guys, stay safe. Enjoy your week, and we will catch you back here next week.